Hi everyone. It's very good to have you watching us today. Today we're going to talk about bots and how bots have a future on intranets. With me today, I've got Nico de Jong from LiveTiles.
Yes.
And Nico, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, not badly pronounced, Dan. It's Nico de Jong. I'm a pre-sales consultant for LiveTiles, working for the whole of EMEA, but based in the Netherlands. And LiveTiles has colleagues around the world and around Europe as well. And we sell different solutions, mostly around the intelligent intranet. And we believe that inside that intelligent intranet, there is a very good place for bots. And that's what we're going to talk about, right?
Perfect. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So just a little bit of history, kind of why sort of our own connection with LiveTile. So I work for Content Formula, and as we all know, LiveTiles acquired Wisdom, and we're big Wisdom partners. So yeah, you guys acquired Wisdom back in February this year, I think. Yeah, and so we found that a really great piece of news because LiveTiles has got some really cool technologies that we're looking to embrace. Yeah, and bots is one of those, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. And I thought just to kick off, Nico, could you just kind of just give us a little bit of sort of some bots 101 information. What is a bot, and can you give us some examples of how bots are being used in the workplace?
Yeah, a bot is actually nothing else than any application out there, but with one very specific feature that you talk to bots. You either chat or talk with them, and then they take care of different things in the organization, different things you as a customer towards a business, and they can actually be everything or nothing. And I think that's also a little bit the difficult thing about bots is that there's a lot of expectations around them. You can see them in some places. You can see them while you're shopping for products on websites. You can see them in some work environments as well. But to really define the value of them and why they are there, that's quite difficult. That's a discussion that we have with a lot of our customers, defining the value of bots.
Okay. And are there any examples that you can give us of bots in an intranet or an internal context?
Yeah, I think where bots are very useful is everywhere where you sort of need to string together different procedures and maybe different applications. And onboarding a colleague, for instance, is a very good example. These people come into the organization. They don't know all of the procedures all of the applications, where they need to go to get what. And people can tell them, and they can find out step by step. But it's especially there where bots are extremely useful to guide people through that process. It's somewhere where it's very obvious to do it there, but actually, if you look at the workday of people, our workdays today consist a lot of finding information, piecing things together, reaching out to people, and just trying to go through several steps to achieve something. And when you have a closer look, you could actually find a lot of use cases for bots in all of those places. All of those places where people take multiple steps and have to follow certain procedures to tie things together, where today we're just opening up different screens and looking through different programs and doing various searches and kicking off workflows. Those kind of things are very suitable to sort of tie together in a bot experience.
Okay, and one of the things that when we were talking the other day, you actually came up with a really cool idea for an intranet bot as well, and you suggested that you could build a bot to help with intranet governance and adoption. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that is a real big topic, right? If you invest in a intranet, how does that intranet give return on investment? And what we see a lot is that people are, would they go out and name out a certain functionality like, yeah, we have a great intranet, but search is not working. So, that's why it's not working. Oh, we have a great intranet, but people are not using it, or people are not willing to use it, etc., etc., etc. There's actually a lot of excuses in there. People might go into solutions like, yeah, people should update content more frequently, etc., etc. Very often, though, it is that sort of introduction to a intranet, to where to find what and how to achieve certain things, the context that people are missing. And that's actually where bots can come in. They can provide certain context to what you might be looking for, helping people search for the right things, use the right terms, and have the bot return certain suggestions to that experience. And now the same thing goes into governance. If you do open up the intranet for multiple people to publish things, so you sort of empower these people to enrich the intranet, there often you also find a roadblock in where do I publish what, or where can I find the right button to create my news article or target my news article. In that we rely a lot on maybe champions. You could have champions throughout the organization, trying to educate other people, help other people out with that in that process. But a bot could be the champion of all champions and sit right there where people want to change things in the internet and give contextual support to finding things, creating things, and then overall governing the internet better and utilizing it better. So it's actually a match made in heaven, I would say, a bot and an intranet.
I think it's a really exciting concept because we all know how much trouble companies have trying to govern their intranets and try to drive adoption. So it's a really exciting use case.
And there's a lot of disappointments in there. And a bot is actually a great way to find out how to improve that sort of internal customer service to your employees around an intranet, because that's basically what it is. It's really that catered experience to things you'd like to achieve.
So what's the future of bots, Nico? Where do you see this? Where do you see them going?
I think it's sort of twofold. On one hand, the bots as an interface, the chat interface and voice interface, is something that we'll start seeing more and more of in a lot of places. So we would see it in cars where you direct the navigation by voice, say where you want to go. You see it in households where you ask for a recipe to a smart speaker. But you'll also see that in the workplace, working with various machines and instructing them to do certain tasks, getting feedback via chat, via voice, getting automated answers while doing certain processes, asking certain questions. You will see that more and more all around us. And that's just the move from point and click to talk, to conversation. The interesting thing there is that that's actually a, let's say, IT skill that everybody has. Everybody can already communicate. I wouldn't say that all of the bot experiences are up to the level of a human, and it might not get there. And I also don't think we need to get there. But that way of interacting with machines and with applications, not having to know exactly which button to click or where to look, that's a great relief to a lot of people, and it will open up, the interaction between people and machines to achieve more, a whole lot. This kind of conversational interfaces. So that's one side of it. That's one side that will be developed further and further, and you can see inklings of that in, for instance, Microsoft Cortana. It's getting smarter and more useful. On the other hand, a bot is also a great way to tie together a lot of AI services. Things like image recognition or speech recognition, sentiment recognition. A bot can actually leverage all of those AI technologies, which are still very much being developed, but some of them are quite mature, and use those inside the conversations to, as I said, for instance, sentiment analysis, to recognize if somebody's upset or happy, and then adapt the conversation to that fact. But there is a whole world of technology where a bot is very well suited to sort of connect into, that we see coming about. And as exciting as it is, people should focus on creating a good customer journey and a good value through the bot, instead of sort of leveraging all of the technology out there. It's just would be ridiculous to do that. It's really they have business value, and you need to tap into that, and you need to keep that business value in mind. And then there's a whole world of opportunities, basically.
Okay, interesting. In my travels and discussions with various customers, I'm often aware of the customer talking about, a bot, having, a bot on our intranet. When I've talked to you about things about bots in the past, we've often talked about this idea of actually within an organization you'll have many bots. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can actually also show you a few slides about that sort of enforce that story. It's very recognizable that people talk about this sort of super bot. It's something that is also associated with artificial intelligence. People would hope to flip a switch, and then there's this bot taking care of tasks magically, knowing magically what to do, and relieving us of a lot of work. That's sort of utopia. I mean, that's very far in the future, and logically so, because bots need to be trained on these kind of specific tasks. And creating one super bot that can do everything is not the right way forward. The best way forward is actually to go through many possible bots throughout the organization, fulfilling very specific tasks. So not generalists that can deal with everything, but specialists. A bit like the colleagues that we have today. You wouldn't find a colleague that fulfills every role in the organization. No, you'd like to be able to go to a colleague knowing that they have a specific skill and utilize that skill, ask them to do that specific task. And that's perfectly fine to go around and find the right colleague for the job. It's the same case with bots. You should be, finding a bot and then addressing that bot and expecting a certain outcome. Here are some samples of bots: personal assistants or password reset assistants, CRM assistants. You just need to be able to open up the bot and basically get the answer that you're expecting. And stringing together different applications, different processes, but having a predictable outcome so that you can get the job done. This is just a picture of all sorts of assistants that you could possibly find, but the use cases are actually endless. As soon as you start digging into the perspective of just one entry point, being able to connect to multiple applications and multiple workflows, you find a lot of stories that resonate very well and that can sort of string together the small pieces of value to create an overall business value to anybody using the bot.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that this concept of the super bot, you're absolutely right. It's something that we kind of hear, and I think that's where expectations become dashed, because that's not going to happen for a long time. And I think kind of really kind of breaking it down and thinking of it as just delivering something for a specific task, it makes it much more achievable. And I think that's your way of that's the way that companies should really be dipping their toes into this whole area. So just find that one use case or a few use cases, and deliver a bot around that.
You also need to experience the change. It's sort of a paradigm change to go from sending each other emails and opening up different applications to having this interaction with a bot. It also requires something different from the organization, because they really have to go into the journey that their employees take past these applications, the jobs that they need to get done, and all of the touch points. So you really need to sort of figure out all those touch points and create a dialogue around those to deliver true value. You need to iterate over that frequently to improve that employee experience, and thus also improving their productivity and maybe also even their fun at the job. I mean, that's something that you can really achieve, but you need to dedicate a few resources to doing that, to really get that return on investment on bots.
So tell us a little bit about LiveTiles technology when it comes to bots.
Yeah, what LiveTiles did was to basically house all these different bots. We've created a bot platform. That's something that would also ensure best way to govern one or multiple bots, especially multiple bots within the organization. Inside this platform, if you want to create a bot, it's actually a 3-step process. So you click one button, and that button takes care of all of the technology in the background that you need to set up a bot. It takes like half a minute, and then you have your bot. Then the next step is to add one or multiple abilities to the bot. And this really talks into this sort of customer journey that you want to create for your user. And in that journey, you do various things. Some things that are examples here is maybe you need some tabular data from Excel or a chart. You might want to kick off a workflow, maybe an approval workflow within this user experience. But you might also want to create a ticket or maybe retrieve a couple of tickets in the context of the conversation. You can create these kind of abilities yourself as well with an SDK that we've developed. We make these abilities, our partners make these abilities, and ultimately these abilities will allow you to talk to any application out there. Anything that has an API, you should be able to talk to, and sort of combine inside that user experience, building it out with these abilities. The last step, once you're happy with how you've configured your bot, you need to publish it somewhere. And bots can be present in different channels. It can actually be one and the same bot appearing in different places. Currently, we support Facebook Messenger, web chat, which is an embed on an intranet or maybe on a website or an extranet, where you find that little bot in the corner at the bottom. But also inside Microsoft Teams. We see a lot of organizations have a lot of interest in that as well. Seeing Teams adopt it very quickly. And in the context of Teams, it's also great to have bots that maybe create project spaces, bots that listen in on chat conversations and learn from those chat conversations to be able to answer other colleagues inside that team. So heaps of opportunities there as well to improve the experience of people inside Teams and in those other channels as well.
Okay, interesting. And just going back to abilities a moment,
yeah.
In your example there, you've got an ability around help desk. Has LiveTiles actually got connectors for things like, I don't know, ServiceNow?
Yeah, exactly. For various IT systems, with the best support actually for ServiceNow, because it's so broadly adopted throughout the world. But we do the same for other high-level applications where we do not yet have a connector. We actually leverage Microsoft technology, being Microsoft Flow or Logic Apps, where we can connect up to more than 200 different applications, but then more through a, let's say, two-step process than a one-step connection into these applications.
I know that LiveTiles has got a very strong strategic partnership with an API company. I forget what it's called, that specializes in building these connectors. Is that part of this, or is that not in place yet for bots?
Actually, both can be used. The company you're referring to is called Cloud Elements.
Right. Yes.
So that's an enterprise API catalog, basically. They boast another 170 applications, I believe. But we can use that side by side with everything that Microsoft offers in this space, and together combined offer more than 200 different integrations into backend applications.
Okay, so as a customer, essentially, if I want to build a bot and I want to connect to some other applications, then with that partnership, actually, we can achieve an awful lot in terms of connecting to those other applications.
Yeah, and that's actually. The technology is not really the obstacle in this. The technology is not the issue, because bots can do a lot of things and connect to a lot of services, utilize a lot of intelligence through AI services. If of course you're willing to tie the bot into those services and pay for those services, they do come at a cost. So you also need to look closely at the business case of a bot. And that's actually where maybe I can show you a bit of the project approach that we use a lot.
This was going to be my next question, actually, is how do you go about building a bot? Because your last slide seems to make it very easy, but I can imagine there's a lot of planning that needs to go into all of this.
Yeah. There is. Luckily for us, a lot of the planning and work goes into sort of the functional descriptions. Things that we do with the business together, looking at the overall value proposition. And the value proposition can be something where you use a bot to sort of automate something which is requested a lot of times, like 1,000 times a month, and then make a very easy business case. But the other value proposition can be around what I call the stringing together of different applications and processes, where it might take a person today 30 minutes to get a certain job done, and we know it could be done in 6 minutes. If only you would enable this user not to think about what to open where, to search where, how to search, how to find, how to copy paste or type things in, but use the bot throughout all of those processes. And actually our abilities are also geared at those things: finding things, retrieving things, making decisions, giving options, deciding, kicking off workflows. This is something that every task is basically consisting of. Everything you'd like to have done is consisting of those things. Tying those together in a conversation makes it very easy for people to just jump in, get it done, and get it done a lot quicker. So that's the other, let's say, big value proposition out there. As soon as we capture that, we go down something we call creating the happy path, which is basically a script often done in role play between an imaginary bot and somebody from the business, a subject matter expert who understands what needs to be done. And mocking this conversation between the bot and this person is very insightful. And you learn a lot of things about how, what good service would entail, and what a good bot would then entail. From there, actually, once you get into those happy paths and formulate a good business case, where I have to say that most of the business cases we've made offer quite tremendous value as long as you focus on the right business cases. To give an example of that joiner business case, new hires, we estimated in a somewhat larger company where they have 70 new people coming in each month, that these people both need to get their pass, they need to get their login, their mailbox, etc., etc. Everything you need as an employee. So that's one side of it, and that's a task time, basically. Some time related to doing all those things. The other aspect of it is, though, that somebody comes in and maybe the first day, first 2 days, maybe the first 5 days, they're not fully operational because they're still waiting for all of those things, getting access to the intranet, or being told how to find the place that they need to work, or what their phone number is before they're fully operational. Just having people get operational quicker is a huge saving. And with this business case of 70 people coming into the company each month, we estimated that they could have a saving around 30,000 euros. This was actually a case in euros, 30,000 euros a month.
Wow.
Just by facilitating those 70 people on those two aspects.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of that was actually getting people operational quicker. So not only the tasks, but also the more efficient way to just get people operational. I was talking about the happy path through here. You can also see that we're going through some fallback paths.
Can I just stop you? Why is it the happy path? Can you just explain why you call it that?
Yeah. So the happy path is sort of the ideal conversation with the bot when everything goes right. Because most of the cost would go into when it goes wrong. To have the bot be able to respond to everything, or have the bot do all sort of complicated things, while maybe just sending out an email to somebody would be sufficient for follow-up, for those edge cases, for the the 5 or 10 or 15% of cases where something goes wrong. That's actually where the true cost is. So first you focus on the happy path when everything goes right, and that sort of defines all of the integrations that we need with backend systems and the facilitation that the bot needs to do. And only from that true business value, you sort of look at the edge cases and see what am I going to accommodate for and how well. And you could easily say that, let's say, all of the edge cases have a cheap and dirty way to solve that is send an email to somebody. Is that a problem? No, not really, because that email was sent anyway, maybe in that process. But now it's only sent in 5 or 10% of the cases. But that's better than trying to think out how the bot can, through a lot of automation or a lot of extra effort, work around that. Sometimes it's just easier to go with the email or with the human handover to somebody on the chat, or just have the bot say, "Oh, I don't know that," or "Here's a search on the internet that might give some results to your question." That's perfectly fine. Just make sure that most of the value in there is delivered, irrespective of what a bot could do potentially. As long as we have this 80% or 90% happy path, then then we're happy. Then it delivers the value.
Makes sense. Okay. So go on about the project.
Yeah,
approach,
so a lot of this
take us through
process
it.
is really into sort of creating the perfect conversation, the perfect experience. There's some fallback paths in there. There's also a suggestion that you can mock some of the endpoints, meaning that instead of talking to the actual applications, you talk to a mocked version of that. So you can keep on refining the bots and the conversation, while at the same time you're having the dialogue with IT people and application managers around security, opening up their systems, impact that might have. Because we find that for some people, these bot projects are a bit scary as they tie into systems. So we need to do that in parallel and decouple that dialogue that we also have with the right security people and IT people from creating business value, because that is really the main objective. It's not a technical grandstand that we're trying to pull off here. It's really the operational one and creating the real value there.
Makes sense. Okay. Are there any do's and don'ts that you think you should share with us when it comes to your bot project?
Yeah, I have a good slide for that as well. A couple of best practices that we've learned over the bit more year and a half of delivering bots throughout the world. A plan for governance. Our vision, and we actually see that in reality as well, is that we'll have multiple bots in multiple places. This is really asking for some governance into controlling that, determining who has access, attributing owners to these bots that will analyze the dialogues and optimize these bots for better performance, because that is a task that needs to be done. What is very important in here as well is scoping. So try to create specialists and not generalists. It's fine for people to open up a bot and then the bot tells the person, well, I'm a specialist of leave days, so book leave days with me. I can answer any question on leave days. I can book any type of leave day, if it's parental leave or sickness leave, holiday leave, you name it. But don't ask me, anything else, where to park outside the building or how to add an attachment to an email. That's not what I'm for. I'm for leave, and that creates the right expectation and the happier users. So scoping is very important from the beginning. Think of location, where people are using it, how they experience the bot in that location. It's perfectly fine to not have the super bot on the homepage, but actually have a bot sitting maybe in the HR section, being specialized in HR questions, and maybe having a bot on the subsite for facility management that is really specialized in facility management things like requesting a new computer or maybe reporting something like a broken elevator. So think of the location, really put yourself in the location. And that's also where that role playing comes in. If we do the role play, we also ask, where is this user? Are they behind a computer or maybe behind a mobile phone? Or maybe let's say that they walk into a hospital and they need certain guidance on where to find their way in the hospital. Then they might be interacting with a tablet, which is standing in the corner. Location is not only that location and the physical device, but also the intention at that point. With the example of the person coming into the hospital, you have to imagine that they're confused about where to go and might not know the right medical terminology to find the right section within that hospital. So you sort of have to put yourself in the place of that user. So the location is a bit broader than just the physical location. Content is also something that you need to consider. A bot is an empty shell. A bot won't do anything until the moment that you tie it up with backend systems or use certain artificial intelligence to make it smarter. But companies already have a lot of intelligence out there. It's the content that they have in line of business applications and documents and so on. And you really need to see how you can leverage that. And you can leverage that through the abilities that we offer in Studio. But you first need to sort of think through everything which is out there, if that can be utilized properly within the bot as part of this customer journey, and ensure extensibility. You will see that a lot of people get their bots custom built, and it delivers great value for the first weeks, months, maybe longer. But a bot is a dynamic thing. It needs to be extended and needs to be improved over time. And you need to allow for that from the beginning. The first technical choice that you make should really look into how extensible that solution is.
Yeah, and I think thinking about the content piece, I suppose one of the traps you don't want to fall into is to essentially just connect it to a piece of content or to a body of content, and it's really just ends up being a glorified search engine, which is one of the challenges that we've had around bots from some of our customers who perhaps haven't quite understood exactly what the potential is.
No, so, you have a different interface in bots, so you need to sort of bite-size a bit of the information that you get out of these content repositories. But at the same time, bots can also assist in the search itself. So if a user doesn't exactly know what they're looking for, they will never find what they're looking for, and then they will blame the search. But very often the search technology is very good. The search technology that we invest in and that we can buy today is actually very good. But users are not always trained or informed well enough about how to use the search, and that's also where bots can really help guide in terminology, create the perfect search string, and then not maybe present the results in the page itself, but actually go and load another page where those results are presented.
Yeah, that chimes very well with a lot of the work that we've done with intranets, where we build pages which we call them guided search pages, so they're around a specific use case, and they get the job done rather than having your general search, like your Google type search at the top, because we all know customers want sort of a Google type search experience on their intranets, but it's very difficult to deliver.
Absolutely, yeah. So those pages, I think it sounds very interesting, and that's something, that concept is easily transferred into a bot as well, or concurrent as well, side by side, could deliver a lot of value actually.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Nico, it's been a really interesting conversation. Thanks for sharing all of your expert knowledge with us.
Yeah.
I suppose I just want to kind of finish off by saying to everyone who's listening, if you want to have another conversation about bots, then do get in touch. Either get in touch with myself, Dan Hawtrey, or get in touch with Nico. And a good next step after that discussion, that initial discussion, is actually to run a little discovery project, so that we can talk about what a bot could look like in your enterprise.
Create that happy path and be happy as well.
Exactly. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Nico. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, was my pleasure.
Have a good day.
You too, Dan. Till next time.
Cheers.